My name is David Zachary Ramos, and I present to you the first episode to a short series named 3D Solutions for Practical Problems. And the problem we have today is about a clamp that needs printing. So a friend of a friend has given me these files about a clamp that they want to have 3D printed. But our job here today is to actually model this object to have somebody else print it themselves. So we can get started with making that object by actually getting those very reference images in and going to whatever directory we have these images stored. So Shift A, image reference, and then loading them there. But they're actually they get imported in perpendicular to your view, so we can adjust that by rotating around an axis. So R, rotate around the axis Y, and then controlling while you rotate around that point, making sure the angle is at 90 each time, and doing the same to the other axes by 5-degree increments, which you control by holding control while you rotate. So doing the same here as well, getting ourselves ready for modeling, because what we're going to do with these references is use these references to model our object upon them in a way. And actually getting to the modeling part, where we want to add a cube, weirdly enough, and we want to reposition our 3D cursor to this point, where we're gonna model this clamp upon. So adding a cube, really, and then selecting everything, because what we're going to do with this cube is merge all of its vertices at a point. So we get a singular vertex that we can add more points upon. So with this vertex mode selected, we want to control right click, so we get a new edge here. And we want to have it follow roughly the shape of this clamp. And now getting to this weird point here, we actually wanna, with our spin tool already selected, we can approach this point here with a spin mode selected, which spins around our 3D cursor. So again, repositioning our 3D cursor with Shift R, we want to rotate around that 3D cursor. With only this vertex selected, actually, we want to rotate around that 3D cursor, so we get that. But we only want to do it around, like, the halfway point. And now, we only want to do it around the halfway point, so we can slice this. We can take this half of the slice and mirror it here. So going to now our other point, we're going to control right click around, following the shape of the object to roughly around the center. But now, to get on with mirroring this, we want to snap our cursor to one of these endpoints. I think this is better, but it shouldn't matter. So cursor to active, Shift S by bringing up the pie menu, and move this apart. And because we moved that, we want to snap the cursor to one of these points again, so it matches that. And we want to mirror around that point by going to our modify properties as indicated by this spanner here, adding modifier, looking for mirror, and adjusting these axes so it follows a general shape. And shoot, it looks like we forgot to do an extra step. It's already set up for us. And what we want to do from here is reposition our origin to where our 3D cursor should be with our object selected. And we can set origin, and by doing that, by going to origin to 3D cursor, right clicking on our object with object mode selected, doing that, and then we then mirror our object, so we get what we want here. And with clipping enabled, because we want to mash these two vertices together. And so we don't have any empty space between them. We now have a general outline of our shape, and we could actually just apply our modifier right there and then. Oops. And where's the volume? But the volume we can add by just going to edit mode, by pressing tab, which I should have prefaced that a while ago. By pressing tab, switching between edit mode and object mode, going to edit mode, selecting all of your vertices, pressing A, and filling that space up. So now we should get this. Now where is our volume? We have our general shape, but what's the volume? We can do that by solidifying, going to our very spanner tool, going to add modifier, solidifying, and adjusting the thickness so we can get a solidified clamp. And from here on, we could actually stop right where we are, but say you want to add like these insets in there, and you want to paint this clamp red. But before that, we actually, because we get these weird banding things, before we get on to actually putting the insets in, we just want to smooth everything out so that it'll look like that. And so now, yeah, we can start with the insets by applying those very same principles we've learned but now we want to toggle our X-ray because this image is kind of in the way. And so X-ray allows us to see images or objects behind other objects. And yeah, doing the same thing we've done for the base clamp model. We want to add, reposition our 3D cursor with shift right click, adding a cube, taking that cube into edit mode, merging them to a point at center. So you get a singular vertex, selecting that vertex, it's already selected, and control right clicking to add new points. And now since we're at this junction here, we want to reposition our 3D cursor, go to our spin tool, and repositioning our 3D cursor to around the center point or the half point of this clamp. Then just spinning around that point, which is the 3D cursor. And now we can actually move on from here because it's a non-manifold object. Press with this vertex point selected, we can keep going, control right clicking, but actually stopping here so we can merge these two together because we want to check if vertex snapping is on and if auto merge vertices is on, because what auto merge vertices does is join two vertices that are close enough together so that they can become one. So we get that. And with that one inset shape, with that one shape inset out of the way, we can move on to the next by doing the very same things we've learned. So adding a cube, with that cube selected, merging its center, with that vertex selected, control right clicking, shift right clicking to reposition our 3D cursor, going to spin, and only spinning to around the halfway point because we're going to mirror this. And then control right clicking to also around roughly the halfway point. And now we actually, this is where we want to set ourselves up to have this mirror upon itself. So with that selected, Shift S to bring up this cursor pie menu, cursor to active, Shift S, cursor to active, going back to edit mode with our object already selected, setting our origin to where that 3D cursor is, so we can add our modifier as we're in object mode, our mirror modifier, and then adjusting our axes so it actually mirrors correctly. Turning clipping on so we can merge these two vertices together, because what clipping does is just when you bang these vertices together, they don't meet. So with that on, they do. And we're going to do that for both the ends. And now we have this side of this inset, but what about this side? We can actually add another mirror modifier, and instead of mirroring around our 3D cursor, we can actually mirror to an object, and making sure our axes are actually applied to it correctly, and we get that. And now we have our shapes, but when do they actually come in play? We have these insets, but what do we do with them? How do we get these actual insets in there? We can actually get to that by actually filling these faces first, because we want them to have object data. But before we actually inset, we want to make sure these faces are oriented correctly. So what the red tells us right now is that this face is inside out, but it shouldn't be. And so we can recalculate that by Shift N, recalculating normals, and toggling this on and off, wherever you have it. And this can be, this blue view can be accessed by going to this viewport overlay on, turning this on and off. But we probably wouldn't need face orientation on anymore. But now, on to the next step of actually getting this inset there. We want these two objects to be together. And so we can do that by entering object mode. And I think it was Control J. Yes, Control J to join these two objects as one. And actually, and next, setting this to solidify, or not solidify, but mirror around this clamp base object. And it's kind of, we want this to be equal along its opposite sides, but it kind of isn't at the moment. So we can just get to that by recalculating this base clamp's geometry or origin to the average of its geometry, which should be at the center. And so now we can better set ourselves up for that. And now what we want to do next to get ourselves closer to making this inset is solidifying our mirrored objects and adjusting the thickness to have it eventually get in there. Because what we're going to do with this is, after we apply our modifiers, this is the magic bit, is to apply a Boolean modifier that is set to the shape of these insets. So now and make sure that it's set to difference, because what these will do is either join them, or I don't really pay attention to what intersect does, but union joins them, difference carves out the shape that you have applied with these. So apply that there, and when we move this back, voila, there's our clamp. And now getting to actually coloring this red, we can actually just go to material properties and adding a new material in there, and changing the base color to whatever color you want, but for the sake of like matching our reference, we want to make that red. But we don't actually see anything because we're in solid mode and we want to be in rendered. Yeah, there's our clamp. But now, the whole point of this tutorial is to actually have somebody print or read this file to have it printed. So we want to delete everything else in that scene. But with our only object that's selected, we want to export that as whatever file your 3D printer reads. So I guess it's STLs and wavefronts and FBXs, which are like I think are the more widely acceptable files for a 3D printer to read. And you can just save that to wherever you want, and exporting that as an STL. And so that should have it. Yeah, here's your clamp. And yeah, thanks for watching.